Hello, welcome to Old Virginia Homes. Today we'll be visiting an upscale colonial hotspot, a lively destination where you could grab a meal and a Madeira and debate politics with our founding fathers. A luxurious destination where you could share a room or even a bed with other prosperous patrons whom you may have just met. George Washington was a regular here, and the birthnight balls held in his honor were splendid affairs. This was the place to see and be seen by all the influencers of the time. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, James Madison, James Monroe, the Marquis de Lafayette, all dined or celebrated within these walls. Some guests simply supped in the dining room. Some lodged for a night or two. Others made this their long-term quarters. And at least one, known as the female stranger, never checked out, and supposedly still lingers. Join me as we visit Gadsby's Tavern, an Old Virginia home in Alexandria. Let's go! Built in the late 18th century in the bustling port town of Alexandria, Gadsby's Tavern comprises two adjoining buildings. The smaller was constructed in 1785. In 1792, John Wise built the large addition, advertising it as a new and elegant three-story brick house, which was built for a tavern and has 20 commodious, well-finished rooms in it. The addition also included a large ballroom with an overhead gallery for musicians. The elevated stage maximized space in the ballroom and amplified the volume of the music, but the musicians had to climb a ladder to get to their perch. When the addition was ready for guests, it was opened with a birthnight celebration, commemorating George Washington's birthday. Birthnight balls celebrating Washington followed the English tradition of celebrating the birthday of the monarch. These events were particularly aimed at the elite, who often used this as an opportunity to step out in their finest form. A local newspaper described the elaborate celebration, writing, "The day was ushered in by a discharge of cannon. In the evening, there was a splendid ball at the City Tavern at which George Washington was present. The following toasts were drank by a company of gentlemen who dined together in celebration of the day." Washington was a regular at the tavern, and some monumental political conversations were made here, including the compilation of the Fairfax Resolves, which eventually grew into the Virginia Bill of Rights. But it's mostly the parties that people want to remember. Apparently, Washington loved to dance and could really cut a rug. In a 1799 diary entry, he wrote, "Went up to Alexandria to the celebration of my birthday. Many maneuvers were performed by the uniform corps, and an elegant ball and supper at night." But this was to be the last birthnight ball he would attend. And after being invited to a series of dances later that year, Washington declined, saying, "Mrs. Washington and myself have been honored with your polite invitation, but alas, our dancing days are no more." He died a month later. English-born John Gadsby assumed operation of the tavern in 1796 and managed it through 1808 under his name, Gadsby's Tavern. And the birthnight balls continued for a time after Washington's death. Lucinda Herbert, a granddaughter of John Carlyle, described an 1805 birthnight ball at Gadsby's City Tavern in a letter to her sister. The birthnight ball supper was very elegant. A large cake in the center of the table, ornamented with an equestrian statue of General Washington, There were 1,100 persons at the city ball. Every room and even the passages were filled with company. But statesmen and elites weren't the only ones who came to the tavern. Merchants and soldiers also passed through these rooms, bringing with them stories from the road, and probably leaving behind a few of their own. The tavern businesses were essential to the city's port-based economy, offering spaces to dine, entertain, and spend the night. Some rooms were suited more for the upper class, where beds were curtained off for privacy, and room service was offered. In 1801, guest John Davis wrote, "I found elegant accommodations at Gadsby's hotel. It is observable that Gadsby keeps the best house of entertainment in the United States." The enslaved workers here were skilled in upscale service. Their expertise and attention to detail was essential to the tavern's reputation. Tablecloths and napkins, referred to as diapers, were a sign of gentility and had to be cleaned and pressed. Silver was polished, and after cleaning, it was counted and kept locked in knife boxes. Thomas Jefferson wrote an 1801 account book entry as paying Gadsby $5.50 for dinner and lodging, as well as 75 cents as a tip to the servants. Alcohol was consumed with every meal, as water was associated with causing illness. But non-alcoholic drinks were also available, including tea, coffee, and drinking chocolate. The assembly room offered space for meetings and a variety of entertainment, including the typical dances, lectures, concerts, and the atypical slack rope performances, ventriloquism, and Toby the wonderful pig of knowledge, who apparently could spell, do math, and read minds. And I cannot forget to talk about the ghosts, because no historic tavern is complete without one or a few. There are reports of sightings of Revolutionary War soldiers, phantom musicians, and John Gadsby himself. But the most infamous spirit who supposedly haunts the tavern is the mysterious female stranger, a woman who arrived in Alexandria in 1816 under a cloud of secrecy, stayed at the tavern with the man who was assumed to be her husband, fell ill, and despite the attentive care of a doctor, eventually died there. Supposedly, her companions swore the doctor and staff to secrecy, insisted that no one inquire about their identities, and ordered an elaborate tombstone for her that still marks her grave and reads, "To the memory of a female stranger whose mortal sufferings terminated on the 14th day of October 1816, aged 23 years and 8 months. This stone is placed here by her disconsolate husband, in whose arms she sighed out her latest breath." Although the 1785 section of Gadsby's Tavern is now a museum, the 1792 section is still an operating tavern where you can choose from modern or more traditional fare, like the peanut soup that I chose. I was there for lunch, but when I return, it will be dinner by candlelight, which must surely transport guests to a time when Gadsby might greet them, or George Washington might be dining at a nearby table. Thank you for visiting Gadsby's Tavern with me, an old Virginia home.